In this TradeMiner video, I want to introduce you to the three versions of TradeMiner: the stocks version, the futures version, and the Forex version. All three versions of TradeMiner are basically the same, with just a few minor differences as far as the user interface goes. The obvious differences are, of course, in the database associated with each version. TradeMiner was designed to help us find historically repeating market cycles and trends. For example, in this stock version, between November 13th and December 30th, every single year for the past 12 years, Garmin, the manufacturer of GPS units, those little devices that are now in everyone's cars, has had a consistent 100% profitable winning track record. It's this kind of information that you and I use as traders to help us find high probability trading opportunities for our portfolios. This same type of information is available to us through TradeMiner in all three markets: stocks, futures, and Forex. And in the following videos, we're going to go through and discover the different features and capabilities of TradeMiner in an attempt to help you better understand how to use this fascinating tool. In this TradeMiner video, we're going to discover the first tab, or we're going to go through step one, the search tab. Now, I can't demonstrate all three at the same time, stocks, futures, and Forex, but I do have all three open. This is the stocks version, this is the Forex version, and this is the futures version. Now I'm going to use the stocks version as our example, but when I find differences, or when we have differences between the user interfaces of the Forex version and the futures version, I'll flip over to those and show you the differences. But basically it's going to be the same process, whichever version you're using, but I can't, it doesn't make sense for me to go through and do the same thing on all three versions for you to save time. We're going to just do it on the one version. We'll start with stocks. So the first thing you'll notice is that we have four tabs across the top. This video we're going to talk about just tab 1, which is the step 1 search tab. Step 1 search, we're going to find and select high probability trading opportunities for your portfolio. What we're going to do is we're going to go through this little scanner right here, and we're going to read this. And what we've done is we've created this in a very simple user interface method that's just kind of like reading a sentence and then answering the questions along the sentence. So what we're going to do is we're going to prospect for trades and I've got month or symbol. So in this video we're going to do month. In the next video we'll go through and we'll do symbol, and we'll talk about the differences. But we're going to prospect for trends in the month of November, and I'm going to choose November because that's this month. Find trends that have won at least, and I've got in here 80% of the time. Okay, so we want trends that have won at least 80% of the time. Again, that's user definable. You can lower that or raise that. Showing both longs and shorts, or bullish and bearish. So you can either, if in the stock market, for example, a lot of people will want to buy an option, maybe a put option. When we trade in the futures and Forex markets, this is the Forex version, we also have the same capability, bullish and bearish, because you can go short just as easily as you can go long in the Forex market, and the same with the futures market. You can go long or short, either one. In the stock market, generally we don't go short, we generally buy put options, a little more kinder. But nonetheless, we can find short opportunities as well when markets fall, make money when markets fall. List trends that last at least, and this is a moving window, or a kind of an envelope if you want to think of it like that. List trends that last at least 15 trading days, but no more than 45 trading days. Now, of course, this is user definable. You can change that from any time frame you want, longer trades or shorter time frames. You can just turn them off if you want and just get every single trade regardless of the length. And I like to have in here, maybe 10 days and maybe 45 days. And then we're going to mine at least 10 years of history. Now, the database has much more than 10 years of history, but we want it to go back and we want it to find 80% winning ratios in the month of November between these time frames that have at least 10 years of winnings. Okay, so this is at least 10 years. It can go further than 10 years, but the minimum we're going to see is 10 years. And then we go ahead and we have a couple of filters down here. One is remove the same symbol duplicate start dates, and so this one is remove the same symbol overlapping trend dates. Now this kind of helps us reduce some of the results. If we take those off, we'll have a lot higher number of results, but we'll have some duplicate start dates. They'll have different ending dates, but the same start dates. And then if we take this one off, it will remove the same symbol, overlapping trend dates. So this just kind of helps us eliminate some of the overlapping markets. I would recommend you take those off and play with them and see what you get, and then turn them back on and play with them and see what you get that way. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit the Dig Now button, and that's going to send TradeMiner out scouring the entire set of stocks that we have in the database, and it's going to find those stocks that meet this specific criteria. Now this just takes a few minutes, so I'm going to pause the video, and when it's done I'll come back. Okay, we're almost done here, and there we are, we're finished. The scan was completed. In this example we've received 1,192 different results, and the results are displayed down here in this window. And in one of the next videos we'll discuss the results, and we'll go into greater detail there. In this TradeMiner video, we're going to go through and we're going to talk about the first step, which is the prospecting step or the scanning step. And this time in the prospecting step, in the previous video, we scanned by month, and then we chose the month of November. But in this video, we're going to go through and we're going to do prospect for trends in the symbol. And we're going to choose a symbol in here, and we're going to use the same symbol that we used in the previous. We're going to use GRMN. We're going to pick Garmin. And we're going to find trends, there it is right there, Garmin, and we're going to find trends that have won at least, and it says 80%. Now when I do an individual stock like this, we can use this high percentage, this high 80% requirement. But what I like to do is I like to turn this down a little bit and maybe bring it down to 70% of the time. And I'll show both longs and shorts, that's fine. And then list trends, and I'll turn these off. Okay, when I use an individual symbol, I like to come in and turn these off, and you can experiment with this. There's a myriad of number of different settings you can use. And then mine at least, and I like, maybe we'll turn this down to maybe 5 years of history. And then I turn off the remove the same symbols and remove the same symbol overlapping trade dates. And this is kind of the way I like to look at an individual symbol. And the reason why, when I hit Dig Now, you'll notice it'll go out, and then I can sort this, and you'll get a tremendous number of results this way. But what I like to do is then I like to sort it by the chronological order. So we'll start here in January, and then I like to just kind of scroll down through this, and you can see basically by looking at the score when the best times to be in Garmin are. So Garmin will have times that are better to be in and better times to be out of the market. Now Garmin's a very strong stock, and is a good time to be in it, many times of the year. We're getting lots of fives all the way down through the entire year. But you'll see in there every now and again you'll get some yellows that pop up, and as you come down through different time frames, you'll see that we're getting, like, here's an example. This is a time frame in which Garmin doesn't do very well. So we're going into December 24th, and these are very short-term trades, only 8-day time frames. But you can see you'll get kind of a seasonal trend. Let's choose a different market. Let's come in and choose let's go MSFT. We've all heard of this little company. Let's do a search on Microsoft, and again I'm going to leave this the same way. And as you scroll down through this, again, Microsoft, a very strong company. We're coming into the end of the year. We see that this is not the best time of year to be in with Microsoft. See, it starts to turn yellow. December 20th through December 23rd is only 83% of the time does it make profits. It had an over a 6-year period. Let's turn this up. Let's come in here and let's say over the last 10 years. And we're going to dig now. We're going to use the filter to filter down a little bit more, and we'll see how this turns out. And we get down here again, pretty good. We're still getting some pretty good returns, but you can see that this is not as high, a winning percentage ratio of 76%. But you get more of a seasonal view or an overall long-term view of an individual stock, and when the best times to be in a stock are and when the best times to be out of a stock. So this is a way that you can come through and you can discover different seasonal trends in stocks, when stocks have a tendency to rise in price and when stocks have a tendency to fall in price. And it looks like several of these towards the end of the year. Here's one that's, look, this is 36 years back. This is a wonderful historical tool, being able to show you 36 years of history on this particular company. It's Motorola. And you can see between December 18th and December 31st, 75% of the time it had a winning ratio. So it was 25% of the time it didn't do so well during this time of the year. Had a lower score right up in here. There's a lower score of 2.75 during this time frame, December 17th through December 19th. But this is the way I like to come in and use the individual symbol for the individual stock. Now you can go in and obviously use any of the parameters you would like, but this is just kind of a nice jumping off point, a nice place to look at to see the overall trend of the market based on the score and the different dates throughout the entire year of any individual stock, futures contract, or Forex pair. In this TradeMiner video, I want to talk about day trading. Now, a lot of people will day trade the markets, especially Forex. Forex is very popular for day trading. Now, I want to show you how this is used in the Forex market for day trading. Now, of course, you can do this in the stock market and in the futures market as well, but I'm going to use the Forex market as an example since most people day trade the Forex market. Now, what I like to do when I day trade the Forex market is I want to have an underlying bias of the overall market itself. I want to know whether the market is going to have a tendency to rise in price during the day or fall in price during the day or during my time frame of trading, because oftentimes I'll trade the Forex market on a 60-minute chart. Therefore, even though it's called day trading, I'm trading over a longer term time frame, generally a week's time frame. And so what I'll do is I'll come in here and I'll come to step one. I'll prospect for trades in the month of, and let's say that we want to look in November, and we want to trades finally, and I'll turn this down pretty low on the Forex market. I'll turn it down to about 75. I'll do both longs and shorts, and then I'll list trades that last at least, and I'll put in here one trading day, and I'll put in here 5 trading days. Okay, so it's a week's time frame. Now this has to be 2 because you can't do just one. So list trades that last at least 2 trading days, but no more than 5 trading days. And mine at least, I'm going to go back just about 8 years of history. And I'm going to turn off the remove the same symbol duplicate symbols and the overlapping trade dates. And when I do that, I get myself a nice little list of the different instruments, the different currency pairs. And then I can come down through them and I can find my favorite currency pair. And I can say, oh, here's the here's the British pound and the Swiss franc. And between November 12th and November 14th, 75% of the time over the last 8 years, that's been bearish. Okay, so that tells me during that week, I'm going to be pretty bearish on that market. Now I can come in here and turn up my sort by my winning ratio. There's 100% British pound, Australian dollar. So between November 3rd and November 6th, okay, just that short period of time, those 4 days, while I'm day trading 100% of the time over the last 11 years, this British pound, Australian dollar has been bearish. So I want to be taking bearish positions during that time frame. Well, so while I'm day trading between November 3rd and November 6th, I'm not going to be taking any large long positions because I know, traditionally speaking, during this time frame, 100% of the time over the last 11 years, between November 3rd and November 6th, the British pound and the Australian dollar has gone down in value. Okay, so that's very important for me to know as a day trader. It gives me my underlying bias. So if I get a buy signal from one of my traditional technical indicators, I may either not take it or take a very tiny position. But if I get a sell signal from one of my traditional indicators during that time frame, I might take a larger position. Okay, so I might load up on it a little bit more because I have the probabilities of this thing, or the likelihood of this thing continuing this overall long-term historical trend is pretty high, right? 100% of the time over the last 11 years, this thing's been bearish during this time frame. So that's how I use TradeMiner when day trading. In this TradeMiner video, we're going to go through and we're going to discuss the results window. Now, in a previous video, we went through and we did a scan, and the results came up down here. Now, we did a scan of month and November, and these are the month and November results. So the results window is set up so that you have each trade is set across here in a horizontal factor, just like you would on a spreadsheet. Everything's in columns, but each trade is horizontally. So for example, you can come in here and sort by clicking on any header. For example, on the trend, you can click on trend, all the bearish trends come to the top, or click on it again, all the bullish trends come to the top. And this is done because up here we selected bullish, bearish, or both, and we selected both, which gives us both. So we can come in here and, for example, this is our first trend. Our first trade is the Garmin company, and its symbol is GRMN. It's a bullish trade, so meaning that we're going to buy and go long, make money when the market rises. The score is 5. Now this score tells us which ones made the most amount of money in the least amount of time with the least amount of risk. And so this one scored very highly. And so we have the score in here. 5 is the highest you can receive, so the score goes from 0 to 5. Now we can sort on the score as well. We can click on the score, and the score then takes us down to the lower scoring individual trends. And you can see down here in the window, some of these had a less likely to make as much money or as consistent trends as some of the higher scoring ones. So this is a high scoring one. This is Garmin, and the trade begins November 13th. It ends December 30th. The winning ratio was 100%, so 100% of the time between November 13th and December 30th over the past 12 years, which is a 48-day calendar day trading time frame, the average profit was 15%, or $1,526 on a $10,000 investment. And then we go on and we have a number of different statistics, and I'm not going to go through each one of them here, but you can go through and see. We have risk reward, average daily profits, biggest profit, max gains, average draw, and it goes on and on and on. We tried to put as many statistics in here as we could possibly fit, so that you have everything in here at your fingertips. And so that is the results table. I would recommend you come through and look down through it, play with it a little bit, realize the most important thing here is the score. Being able to look down through the score and seeing which ones made the most amount of money in the least amount of time with the least amount of risk. And then of course being able to sort by clicking on the header. Being able to sort is an important thing that we do in here as well. So this is the results panel, and in the next video we're going to go and discuss the different charts. In this TradeMiner video, we're going to go through and we're just going to look at the charts. We're going to talk a little bit about the different charts that we have available to us. We did our scan in a previous video. We also looked through the results. The results came up with one trade called Garmin that we've been kind of following. This is the Garmin trade down here on the bottom, and you can see that this is the first chart. This is the chart that's in the center. This is the default chart. This is kind of my favorite one that we come through, and you'll notice that the years are listed on the bottom. This is 2001, 2002, 2003, all the way out to 2012. We're currently in 2013, and so we're waiting for this to complete. Once it completes, it'll also show its profit or loss in this window here. We also have over here the amount of money right here listed on the left hand side. Now these are almost like little candlestick charts, if you're familiar with candlestick charts. So we have, this is the high that the market went for that year, this is the low that the market went for that year, and this is where it closed out. So you can see this one had a rather large drawdown in 2008. The market rallied up to this point, it pulled back to this point down in here, and then it rallied back up for a profit. So this one had a drawdown of this much, a rally up to this point, and then pulled back to the closing ratio. And so that's what we're looking at here, and it's representative of every single year. You'll also notice up here we also give you the information for that particular trade for Garmin. We say bullish Garmin begins November 13th, 2013, ends December 30th, 2013. The average profit is $1,526 with the biggest winner of $27.89, which would have been this year here. And then the total profit was $18,316.72 with a winning percentage ratio of 100%. Now that total profit, $18,000, can be seen in a chart as well, which is right here. This is kind of your equity curve. Had you traded this every single year for the last, what was it, 12 years, this is what your equity curve would have looked like. And then of course this is our risk versus reward chart over here. Each one of these are a button. All you have to do is just click on the different chart, and that will bring it up in the larger window. Of course, risk versus reward, meaning that the more green the better, the less red the better. So the greater risk you would be taking if you had a larger percentage of red, or it's based on basically the drawdown, how much money you're willing to risk for the reward potential. And then this one here, this last tab, is just a simple table of all the individual trades, and it shows, working through the weekends. November 13th, 2012, we had a beginning price of $34.96. Ending date was December 28th. The ending price was $38.98. We had a drawdown of $80 for a closed profit of $1,151. And so you can go through and see each individual trade's specific information about the trades that happened that year. And that is just a quick rundown of the Charts tab window. In this TradeMiner video, I want to talk about user preferences. Up here in the right hand corner, you'll see that we have a button called User Preferences. When we select that button, this window comes up and it gives you two sections. Now you'll notice, I'm going to hit OK. If we go over to Portfolio tab 2, the same User Preferences window is over there. So it's a duplicate, it's exactly the same. If you make something changed over here, it's going to reflect over in tab 1. So what we do is we come in here and we have Trade Allocation Preferences. We have this is for step 1 and step 2, so we can come in here and we can say my total account balance is, and we put in whatever our balance is in here, and I've got $50,000, and I would like to allocate trades using the following criteria. We can have it set to dollars. I would like to allocate 20% of my money for each individual trade for a total of $10,000 per trade. So this breaks it down for you and it does all the calculations out in the results tab based on this calculation right here. We can also come down here and say quantity. I would like to be in a quantity of 100, and in the stocks version this would be shares. So we're going to do all the mathematical calculations based on 100 shares per trade rather than quantity of 20% of our 50,000 account. So it's a little bit of different calculations, a little bit of different math, but you can choose between the two, whichever you prefer. And then we will recalculate the results table based on this criteria. Now for tab 2, we talked about the neural network, and this is where you set up the neural network risk tolerance preferences. My individual risk tolerance is, and you can choose conservative, which means I want to avoid losses as much as possible and I'm willing to miss out on potential large gains. I am moderate. My risk tolerance is greater than conservative, but is less than aggressive. And aggressive means, of course, that I want to get into as many large gains as possible, and I'm willing to accept potentially large losses. So what this does is it changes the calculations, of course, within the neural network to come in and, changes it so that it'll allow larger potential losses or larger drawdowns or the possibility of larger drawdowns and losses in an attempt to try and maximize our largest gains. Conservative is kind of a happy medium between the two, and then of course conservative, or moderate and then conservative of course is that we're going to try and eliminate or look through the history and see how many of them had the least number of drawdowns and the least losers, and we're going to be very conservative and we're going to throw out a lot of the other moderate or aggressive type of trades. Okay, I like to generally just leave it on moderate, but that's my personal setting and that's the default setting for TradeMiner. In this TradeMiner video, I want to talk to you about column options. Column options are the sort order of the columns and the things that we have inside of the columns, what shows. So if we click on the column options tab, we have this double little window here that shows a basic way of moving or choosing the ones we want. Now the default is for column chooser is that we have everything selected, so everything is over here in the visible window. If we don't want something, for example, we can come in here and say, well, maybe I don't want to see whether it's optionable because I don't trade options, I don't care. You can move that out of the window and then it will not show up here in your panel. Maybe you don't care about the sector, you can move that out. Maybe you don't care about the industry, you can move that out. Now you can also change the sort order. Maybe you want to have total investment moved up in the sort order. Move it up here, or maybe you want quantity to be moved down, move down, move down. And so we can change things back and forth depending on your selection. Maybe I want industry back in, I can do this. Bring industry back in, do the sector, I want that back in, and then I can use this to move the sector up to where I want it, and this is the way we set it, or you can personally set it. We have the default column order, so if you want to just go back to factory settings, you just click default column order. It'll put everything back to the way we started it in the initial settings when you first installed the software. Now that's tab 1. We also have sort priority. So if we click on the second tab, this is the sort priority. Now the sort priority is we have set in here initially, it's the score, the winning percentage, and the beginning. And you can have that go by ascending or descending. You can change the winning percentage by ascending or descending, and you can change the sort priority 3, which we have here as the beginning, by ascending or descending. And you do that just by selecting the buttons that you want or whichever column you want in the drop down. Now the great thing about this, the set priority and the column chooser, is both of these can be set out on the results table themselves. So if we come in here and hit OK, now notice the sort priority is score, win percent, and begin. and they are descending, descending, and ascending. If I want to change those without having to come into this window, I can just do it out here on the window by very simply selecting the header, and whichever one I click on, I now have that one. I've now put that into the, notice that it's now in the descending order, or ascending order for the winning percentage, and I clicked it first, so it's in the first tab. So it's winning percentage ascending, and then I can change it over here just by clicking the header. So if I want to go by the trend, or if I want to go by the score, you'll notice now those are in here. You're going to see the trend and the score are listed in this listing by ascending, ascending, and ascending. So just by clicking the headers out here, we can choose that same thing. So we can come in here, and I like to have maybe my winning percentage, the highest ones there. I like to have my highest scores, and I like to have the bullish ones first. So I have the bullish, highest scores, and winning percentage. If I come back into column options, go into set priority, you're going to see trend, winning percentage, and score all by descending order. Okay, so we can do the same thing with column chooser. Column chooser, I can set the order of my columns just by dragging them and dropping them. I can bring this over here, and you'll notice that that moves this one into the place that I want it. Maybe I want winning percentage over here, or maybe I want this one back the way it was. I can just put them back the way they were, and then you'll notice over in the column options in the chooser that these will move into the order in which you set them out here on top, or you can move them up and down through the tool here and set them all at once. So very convenient, very easy to use and manipulate the results tab using the column options. In this TradeMiner video, I want to take you through and show you the all-important print button. Now the print capabilities in TradeMiner very powerful in the fact that it's very important and very helpful for us in setting up our watch list. So what I've done here is this is our portfolio, and we have 3 different trades within our portfolio, and I have one highlighted. I have the Monsanto company highlighted. So if we come in here, it says, would you like to print the selected trade details, or would you like to print the summary of all the trades shown? Now the one that I have print selected details is the one that I have selected over here, which is Monsanto. So I'm going to print selected details, and I need to bring this into the screen just a little bit because we're in a recording size screen. You'll probably have a little bit bigger monitor than me, but nonetheless this is a print out of the entire details of the Monsanto company trade that we have selected over here in our portfolio. You can see all the details up here at the top. We can see the charts, and we can also see the historical graph down here at the bottom, giving us all the entry and exit dates for the last historical trading time period for this particular stock. Now I'm going to come in here and close this. I'm going to hit print again. This time I'm going to hit print summary. Now this is a print summary of the entire portfolio, of everything we have in our portfolio, all 3 trades. Now I can print this out and have this available for me and ready so that I have it available as my watch list next to my trading platform. And you can see all the details necessary to watch these individual trades as they come to the time frame in which we need to look at them and be prepared to enter these markets. So that is the print, both individual and summary, for your portfolio. In this TradeMiner video, we're going to talk about tab 2, the portfolio tab, and we're going to talk specifically about the neural network scanner. Now in TradeMiner, everything that we've done so far is a report of the historical trend of any given market. It's telling us what the market has done in the past history. Okay, it's not telling us what it's doing now or what it's doing in the future. It's only telling us what it's done in the past. Now we all know that the government says that past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results, but in my opinion it's the best information that we have. And so what we want to do is play off the past to profit in the future, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to use the neural network, which is a series of different types of technical indicators that are all used together to help us scan and make patterns of the market and look at historical patterns and compare them with what the market's doing this year to see if the repeating patterns are starting to occur once again. And so what we do is we come through and very simply we scan and compare upcoming opportunities within, and I've got in here 5 trading days of their begin dates against their historical trends and market cycles to calculate this year's probability of success. Note, the closer to the entry date, the more reliable, but you will have fewer results. So if we only wait until 5 days prior to the start date, we'll be more reliable, but we won't get as many of these will be filled, right? So we can come in here and we can run this out, and we can go out as far as 15 days out ahead of this begin date. So we can go ahead, and I'm going to hit calculate now, And this takes just a few minutes, so I'm going to pause the video, wait for it to be finished. When it's finished, we'll come back and we'll have a probability calculated for each one of these opportunities that are upcoming. Okay, our probabilities calculator completed, and you'll notice now that we have a probabilities column in here. Now every one of these columns in here is a repeat of what was going on over here in the search tab. Now we've reduced the number of the column chosen in here. There's not nearly as many of the individual statistics that you find over here in the search tab. Over here you'll find that we have a much larger selection of headers and things that you can sort on. We figured that by the time you get over here into the search tab, you've eliminated a lot of these based on that information. Now that information is still available to you. You can come in this panel here, into column options, and you can add, and you'll notice that they're kind of removed out of here. And we can add them back in and customize this second tab as well as the first tab. But we've eliminated a lot of them just to make it simpler, give you a little bit less information to have to absorb. We figure you've done most of the information absorbing over on the search tab, and this is where you've picked just the ones for your portfolio that you want to trade. Now the neural network scanner went out and it scanned within 15 days all of these individual stocks, because we're within 15 days of the completion date of these stocks. And so we have a probability, and you can see in here that Monsanto again is ranked as high. Garmin is ranked as high, a high probability of being profitable again this year as they were in years past. This one here has dropped down a little, it's medium, so it's not performing exactly as anticipated, but nonetheless it's getting a nice, it's not saying low or very bad. And so this is a scanner that's gone through and told us, basically how we can anticipate whether this market has a probability of repeating a profitable trend again this year. And that is a summary of how the neural network works. In the next video, we're going to talk about the next little filter that we have available to us. In this TradeMiner video, I want to go through and I want to talk to you about the portfolio filter. Now the portfolio filter was designed to help us pick out of our list of portfolio selections the very best opportunities to be in the market. Now it's also going to look at the dates and make sure that we're not having too many trades on at the same time, and it's going to look and it's going to compare the score and the probabilities and the number of percentages and profits and all that kind of stuff, and it's going to go through and it's going to calculate for us the very best opportunities. And so we can come through here, and I only have a very few listed in here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I only have 7. This oftentimes will work better when you have a larger selection. Maybe you've selected 20 or 30 different stocks out of this list. But nonetheless, we can still do that over here with this in this list, with this small list. I would like to be in no more than, and let's just say 3 trades simultaneously, and would like to filter my trades based on the following probabilities. I want it to be high, medium, or low, or very low, and that's the probabilities that are listed here, or not calculated. If we have some in here that we haven't calculated yet, we can still turn those off, and still it'll take a selection of them not using the probabilities as one of the criteria factor. Okay, and then we say, note, amount per trade is based on trade allocation set in your user preferences. So whatever we can accommodate up here in our user preferences, and I'm going to put in 20% with a $50,000 account and hit OK. You'll notice that changes that right here. It also changes the mathematical calculations that are listed here. And we're going to say filter our portfolio. And it's going to go through and it's going to select for us the 3 very best opportunities for us and recommend that these are the ones that we get into based on high probability, high score, highest amount of money, the most amount of money with the least amount of risk in the shortest amount of time. And so it's going to go through and select for us, or help us select which ones we should be trading. And that's a scanner or a calculation tool designed to help us identify the very best trading opportunities out of our selection. And that's the filter. Portfolio filter. In this TradeMiner video, we're going to go through and we're going to talk about step 2, the portfolio tab. Now before we can start going through the portfolio tab, we have to populate it with some trades. So the way we do that is we come back over to the search tab, and we can go through and we can eliminate individual selections by doing a number of different things. Of course, that's by sorting them in a manner in which we choose. We can come in and sort them the way we would like to see them. Now I've got them sorted with my winning percenting ratios the very highest. I've also got them sorted with my trend being bullish, and I've got them sorted with the score being the highest in a descending order. So now what I can do is I can come in and I can select the ones that I want to have moved over to my portfolio. Now you'll notice if I select add, that's all it takes to put one over into the portfolio, and that one now comes over into my portfolio. If I come back to the search tab and I want to select another one, let's say I want Monsanto Company as well, I'll select that one. If I want United Parcel, I can select that one. Now I can also come in here and select multiples at a time. Let's turn those back off. What I can do is I can come in and I can say I want to hold down my shift key, and using the standard Windows shift control I can select an entire range. Hold down the shift key, click again, and that entire range is selected. Now I can come in here and say add to portfolio by clicking this add to portfolio button. That goes ahead and selects every single one of them in the range, and when I come over to my portfolio is populated with all of them in the range. So now the other one is to remove from portfolio. So anything that I have selected, I can just hit remove from portfolio, and now my portfolio is empty. So if I come back over here, I can remove individual ones from the portfolio, you can see, or I can remove all from the portfolio, and I just removed all. So if I wanted to do individual ones, I could just say the ones that have been selected out of the list, and then I can remove from the portfolio. Now another feature that is great about this tool is the ability to bring in individuals without selecting a range, and you can do that using the control key. So you can hold down the control key, select multiples just like you would in any Microsoft program, leaving out one or two, and then you can say add to portfolio, and it's going to add those individual trades to the portfolio as well. So this is the way that we populate our portfolio. In this TradeMiner video, I want to take you through and I want to show you kind of a hidden feature. And you'll notice that we are in here on tab 2, and this is the price chart. And it's very simple to get to. All you need to do is double click on any of the entries that are in the results table. So for example, if we want to look at the Peabody Energy Corporation, we can double click on it and it pulls up a price chart of the actual Peabody Energy Corporation. Now you'll notice the really cool thing about this is that it comes in here and it shows you the begin date, the recommended begin date when we get into the market, the trend, and when TradeMiner recommended that we close the position out. And so that's what's really cool about the TradeMiner charting application. Now it's basically the same in every version. So if we come over here to the futures version, we're in tab 2 and we want to see something. This is the lean hogs. Again, we can click on it. Now in this version, this market has not closed out the position, so there's not a close line yet. We're still in this trade. So TradeMiner recommended that we get in right here, and the market rallied, but we're still in the trade. Here's another one just for fun. Here's euro dollar. Euro dollar recommended that we get in here, and we get out right here, and because the trade has closed, you can see both the entry and the exit right here on the price chart. Very easily, just to double click on the entry and you can see where we get in. Now this is a short position telling us that we should go short the market here and get out right here. So that was a nice little profitable trade on this short position. It did have a little drawdown, but nonetheless this is a profitable trade, and it shows up down here in your window as a profitable trade. Now if we go over to the Forex version, it's the same thing. The Forex version, if we double click on it, we have the end and the beginning. Notice that this is a begin to open, and this is a short position, so when we're bearish on the market, it recommended this trade right here down through this trend, and it got out right here. And once more, if we click on the New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen, this is another trade that it recommended from getting into the market here and getting out here. And that's what's really cool about TradeMiner, is it gives you a daily chart as well as the historical chart, or the historical view of the overall long-term trend. And that's a little secret inside tip on how to get into the daily charts and the buy-sell signals in TradeMiner. In this TradeMiner video, we're going to quickly go through and look at the Settings tab. Now the Settings tab is the place that you'll notice a significant difference between the stocks, Forex, and futures versions. This is the stocks version. Of course, this is a list of all the stocks that we have in our data cube in the database that's available for you to scan through. And so we have all kinds of information about each individual stock. You have the 52-week high range, the PE ratio, market cap, sector, industry, instrument, which is optionable, etc., etc., etc. So you have lots of information available to you here, and that's for sorting. And the reason we do that is because you can come in here and you can move these headers around, or you can click on them to sort through the different ranges. So you can click on instrument, for example, and we bring all the ETFs to the top, or you can click on it again, it's going to bring all the stocks to the top. We click on the symbol and it's going to sort them by alphabetical order, or by name, and it's going to sort the company by name. You want to see the average volume. You can bring the lowest ones or the highest ones to the top. So you can look at these different categories in a different way. Now the reason you want to do that is because you might want to set up different groups. And we're going to talk about custom groups and setting up groups in the next video, but quickly what you can do is you can come in here and you can select between different groups, so basic materials or the healthcare or financials. So if you only want to search when you're over here in tab 1 on the financials, you would in the settings tab select financials, and it would go through and select all the financial instruments, and then when you go to the search and you prospect for trades in the month of, it's going to only search through the financial instruments or the financial stocks. And so that's one way of doing that. If we come over here and we look at the Forex version, you'll notice that we have a little bit different view. We tell you the symbol, the name, the margin, the tick value. Of course, we have the group and whether it's optional. And then, of course, you can click on the headers and you can sort those as well. You can also drag them and move them into different placements if you would like. And then we come over here, and this is the Forex version. Same thing, the Forex version has much less number of pairs, but this is the number of pairs that we have available to us to search through in the Forex market. Plus you have the same columns with the sort capabilities. You can bring them to the top, sort them by alphabetical order, and you can create your own groups. So that is a summary of the Settings tab. In this TradeMiner video, we're going to go through and just quickly look at the group settings in the Settings tab. Now the Settings tab is basically the same in every version, whether you're looking at the Stocks version, which is the one we're looking at here, the Forex version, or the Futures version. You'll notice that setting up groups is exactly the same. So I'm going to example setting up a group using the Stocks version again. Now this is the entire historical database, or all of the different symbols that are available to us in the entire database. Now we might not want to search every single one of these when we go to the search tab. We might want to just search by sectors or groups or specific groups that we might want to create that are custom to us. So the way we do that is we simply come in here and say, maybe I want to only search through the healthcare industry. So I select healthcare, and now nothing is selected except for in the industry. You'll see just the healthcare is selected. Any of the healthcare industry stocks are selected, and so there's a nice grouping of them right there. So when we come over to the search tab, when we do the dig now, we're only going to search and get results for the healthcare industry. That's how the settings work. Now let's come back here and let's go let's check all. So these little buttons down here, check selected, check all, uncheck selected, and uncheck all. Very simple. And what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to create our own group. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down and I'm going to uncheck all selections. So we now have nothing selected, and I'm going to make my own group. Now on whatever criteria you choose. Now maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, I'm going to search by PE ratios, high PE ratios. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to select this one, and I'm going to select a range. So I can select a range, and I hold down the shift key and click the left mouse button, and that selects that range. That's just the standard Microsoft selection tool. So you click this range. Now I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say check selected. So now that I've checked those are selected. Now I can also come down and add in a different one or two that I might want that's not through that particular range. So I might come in here and I can just say, well, I want this one, I want this one, and I want this one too. Or you can come down and you can do a control key and hold down the control key, and every one that you click with the control key is going to select like this. So you can select a few with the control key, and then you can come down and say check selected, and it's going to put those into the group. So now we've created kind of this custom group for whatever reason we've created them, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say save group. So now I'm going to come in here and say this is my group, and I hit OK. So now I have my own custom group. So when I come over to search, the only thing I'm going to get are results from my own custom group. Now let's say we want to add a couple more to that group. All we have to do is come in here and say I'm going to hold down the control key, and I'm going to select this one, I want this one, this one, and this one, and I want those in my group. So now that my group is selected, all I have to do is hit save group again, and it adds those in. Oh, I first have to hit check selected. Don't forget that part, because see, they're selected but they're not checked, so I have to hit check selected. Now they're selected. Now I can hit save group, and it's going to add those into my group, so I can modify my group anytime I want. If I want to take some out, I just take a couple of out. I don't want those in my group. Hit save group again, and it's going to save those, save my group the way I have it now currently checked. And so now I can come in here. Now what if I want to create a new group? What I have to do is I have to come down here, and I have to come up, and I'll say new, and it's going to select all of them, and I just say I just don't want all of them in this group, so I'm just going to come down here and say uncheck all. Now I can sort by something else, maybe by market cap, and I'm going to bring all the huge market caps to the top, and I'm going to say, I'm going to hold down my shift key, but I don't want these three in there, so I can do that just by holding down the control key and taking out a few. And then I can say, okay, check selected. That's my new group, and I can say save group, and this is my new group 2, and I can hit OK. So now I have multiple groups. I can set up multiple groups just by using check selected, check all, uncheck selected, uncheck all. Giving them names is important, because when you want the new group, you have to come down here and say new group, which will select all of them, and then you're going to want to uncheck all of them if you don't want all of them in your new group. But that's the key. Otherwise, you're going to have your group down here. Say you come down here and you just have my group, and then if you start adding into it like this and then hit save group, it's going to add those into your existing group. All right. So to get rid of the groups that we've created, now if we don't want them anymore, it's very simple. We pull up the group, we say remove group. Are you sure you want to remove this group? You say yes, and it's gone. One more, my group 2, I'm going to remove that group. Are you sure you want to remove it? Yes. And that's how we set up custom groups in TradeMiner. In this TradeMiner video, I want to talk quickly about the Education Center. Now, the Education tab is in every version. You'll see it. This is the stocks version. This is the Forex version, and you have the Education tab here. And you also have it in the Futures version. This is the Education tab here. But what happens when you click the Education tab is it opens up a web browser that brings you to the Education Center. The Education Center is always changing, so we want you to check back often, as there's new material always added. You'll also notice that we have a Getting Started place where it's going to go and give you getting started information, oftentimes a video. We have video lessons that are going to teach you different ways of using the software. We have a trading club that you can join. We have a PDF manual. We have tools for traders. We talk about the different product lines of different tools like Track and Trade that you can use to help you trade. We also have a Q&A center where you can go and read different questions and answers that other people have asked. We also have a live questions and answers right here. If you have a live question that you need and you would like to talk to someone immediately, you can type in a question right here, and it's going to help you. Someone during business hours regularly, you're going to get someone on there who will help you with a live question. And so we have all kinds of resources available for you to help you when you're using TradeMiner.